Hello, welcome, and welcome back to the United Mates Football Podcast. As ever, I am joined by my co-host Joe, and our old friend John is here with us as well. We do also have a special guest who we're all thrilled to have with us on today's call. We're going to be chatting with him about his favorite club team and his life as a hugely popular content creator. We're also going to be playing a few games too, and we even have some new music for you at the end of the show from today's featured artist, Sandy Nunn. So stick around for his single Tearjerker. Right. Before Joe properly introduces today's guest, John, welcome back to the pod. How have you been doing?
I'm good. I'm just trying to live with having all this hair on my head. To be honest, it's a new thing for me. And also, I was in a great mood literally 10 to 15 minutes ago, and then 5 minutes before half time in the Arsenal game, David Luiz has just been sent off, and Wolves scored the penalty. So that's just curtailed my mood for a bit. But yeah, other than that, I'm all right.
Yeah, I can relate on both ends, being an Arsenal fan and having long hair recently. I kind of have this trick where I stick it in a beanie as soon as I get out of the shower, and that allows me to look like a normal person for the rest of the day. But otherwise, I can relate to your struggles. Hopefully, Arsenal will turn it around in the second half. Joe, my co-host, how are you?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks, Kai. Obviously hoping that Arsenal don't turn it around in the second half, but I'm sure we'll keep an eye on that. Yeah, it's just another day in lockdown Britain, really. You know, we've had a few of them. I'm sure there's a few more to go. But now we've mentioned on this podcast before that myself, Keitel and John have all gone to the same school. But today, in fact, our guest has actually been to the same junior school as myself. And even weirder in a sense, I guess, Keitel and John also went to a junior school together. And we've worked out that we think me and today's guest have actually played football against John and Keitel. Crazy times, eh? But anyway, a big welcome to the show to Max Fosh. Max, Max, it's great to have you here.
Thanks very much for having me.
Oh, that's all right. And yeah, just so everyone knows, Max is the YouTuber, of course, behind Street Smart. And over the last few years, he's been up to all sorts, including buying a roundabout, tracking down a woman from a famous stock photo. I enjoyed that little series. And of course, trying his best recently to get a job at Radio 1. So Max, how are you?
I'm very well. Thanks very much for having me. I mean, it is very fitting that this is kind of a football podcast, because that has been the thing that has got me through the most recent lockdowns, the last lockdown 2, lockdown 3, just having the opportunity to putting on the TV and knowing, like, without fail, you know, there's going to be some match on, has been a real lifesaver. I've suddenly become incredibly interested in Sheffield United versus West Brom, which previously I never would have been. But suddenly I'm rooting for McGoldrick to bag a hat-trick. I don't know what's happened to me.
Yeah, no, it really is. At the moment, every day football is a bit of a saviour for us. But Max, we start every episode on this podcast with an icebreaker question for our guests. So we're obviously aware that you've got a bit of a history with meal deals on your YouTube channel. So what we want to know, Max, what is your favourite meal deal?
So I got asked this question the other day, and I was wondering whether I should say, but I should keep it this mystery. But then I realised I watched back one of the meal deal episodes, and I did say on camera what my meal deal was. Now, with this, I get this question quite a lot, and I find it really funny because I've now kind of been given this title as someone who knows everything about meal deals, when in fact I just made kind of 2 videos being silly about it, and I don't really know that much about them. So I don't promise to possess the world's best meal deal, but my meal deal is as follows. It's got to be Tesco. It's got to be I'm a big fan of the chicken and bacon and mayo sandwich they do, but the chicken, bacon and mayo has kind of been blended into this like mystery sauce. And it's this paste that you don't really understand what it is, but it is quite tasty. So I'll get that involved. And then a beef barbecue hula hoop, the big ones, they go down an absolute treat. Or if I'm feeling a bit tangy, I want a bit of salt, I get a McCoy's salt and vinegar. I love deep ridge crisp. That really packs a punch. And then finishing up with Lipton's peach iced tea, the driest of all soft drinks. Wow, that your mouth comes out of that with a new, having had an incredible experience. So yeah, for me, it's a peach iced tea, some beef barbecue hula hoops, and a chicken and bacon mayo surprise.
Oh, that, it sounds very good. Very, very good indeed, actually. But John, how about you? What is your ideal meal deal?
Yeah, I've actually been thinking about this all day because there's some great You are right, Max. Tesco is definitely the one. For me, it used to be Sainsbury's back in the day, but they've kind of like reworked their meal deals in a weird way, and it just doesn't work. But yeah, it would have to be the chicken and stuffing, roast chicken and stuffing, and I'll go for McCoy's flame grilled steak. I'll just go for it, flame grilled steak, proper crisps, and maybe on a Friday, full fat Coke. But if it's not a Friday, we're going to go for an innocent smoothie to keep it healthy. Okay.
that is really
It's all about balance, people. It's all about balance.
Exactly. Our resident dietitian, John Walters, there. And finally, Keitel, obviously you're in America these days, but back, when you're next back in the UK, what are you going to go for with your meal deal?
Yeah, definitely. This was a nostalgic one for me to think about. I'm probably going to get it wrong in terms of combos that I'm allowed to put together because it's been a while. But sandwich wise, I'm a pescatarian, so can't look further than a tuna sandwich. Sweet corn or not, doesn't matter. Yeah, otherwise, crisps wise, Quavers, because we don't have them here. Drink wise, I think I'm probably kind of like pushing the boat out a bit. I don't think they'd let me, but a J2O. Likewise, we just don't have them and their quality. And then if I'm going to be like extra cheeky and grab a sweet, maybe like a Twix, because it's quite a luxurious candy bar. Joe, what would your meal deal if you could put whatever one together you wanted to be?
Nice, yeah. I'd go to Tesco's as well. Got to use that club card. Then I'd get a BLT sandwich probably. I'd also go for salt and vinegar McCoys. I'm a big fan of those. I'd then get a Coke, but I'd get one of those like really thin cans of Coke, so I feel like it's not quite as bad. And then if I'm adding a chocolate bar in to maybe ruin the deal, but I'm just extra hungry, it's got to be a double decker.
Oh, it's good. I like when someone mixes it up and gets a chocky bar in there because it is technically allowed. It is fair game in the meal deal world, but people see the crisp as more of a snack rather than a dessert. But Joe, I love that. You're really thinking outside the box.
Oh, I've had plenty of practice of getting it for lunch over the years. So got it nailed down.
The candy bar is a bit of a curveball. I wonder if people at the checkout, like the Tesco people, are doing a bit of a double take when they see a candy bar instead of crisps every now and then. Got to keep them on their toes. Anyway, now that we've sort of established our favorite meal deals, let's move on to some more personal questions, as if meal deals weren't personal enough. So, Max, essentially, we want to know about football and your relationship with football from your childhood. So when did it all begin? Do you have any memories of either playing or watching football? And to my knowledge, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe, are you a Chelsea fan? Is that correct? How did you become?
I am a Chelsea fan. I am.
Perfect. How did that happen? How did all the football stuff start? What is your origin story?
So the football stuff, if I can cast you chaps' mind way back to the year of 1999, and AFC Wimbledon, I think were in the Premier League. But no, I remember I was living in West London with my parents, at the age of 4 or 5 in '99, and my dad one day said to me, my dad's always been a big sportsman, but he's more rugby and cricket, and he said to me, do you want to go watch a football match? And I thought, yeah, sure, that sounds good. And I loved getting in Sunday morning. Was it Sunday morning? Yeah, Match of the Day Sunday morning with Des. I just loved doing that. I was just the beautiful day playing with the montage. Oh, it was just nostalgia 101. And he said to me, do you want to go watch a match? I was like, yeah, of course. But we didn't really know what matches were on. So we literally got the newspaper out and we were looking at the back to see where local teams were playing. So we were looking for either we lived in Holland Park in West London. So we were looking for a Fulham game, a Chelsea match, QPR. And QPR happens to be playing against Bury in, I think, the 3rd division of English football. And so we were like, right, let's just go down. So we bought a ticket from a ticket tout and we went to this game and QPR beat Bury 4-0. And I remember there was an absolute screamer of a goal at one point. But my overriding feeling after watching the match was that of feeling sorry for Bury, finding out they'd come all of this way to be beaten 4-0. So my mind went to the logistics of it and the disappointment that had to be involved. So that's where I kind of really loved football. And I was playing kind of Saturday football in North London on Primrose Hill. And that's where I kind of like fell in love with football. I was a little bit of one for I was left-footed. So I kind of took myself on as the flashy winger because I just hated tackling. I hated getting hurt. So I should have become a QPR fan after that point. But I think my dad said to me, look, Max, QPR are never going to win anything. you live in Chelsea, so Stamford Bridge is relatively close. They're probably more likely to win things. So go for Chelsea. So I think that's how I ended up supporting Chelsea, because at the age of 5, I was a bit of a glory supporter, glory hunter.
That's fair enough. I mean, why not? Why not aim high from a young age? And interesting to hear that you played football at Primrose Hill on Saturdays. We might even have further crossed paths, because that sounds very familiar as something that I would have done.
Do you remember a guy called Emmanuel? I seem to remember Emmanuel.
I literally do remember a trainer called Emmanuel, yes. Yeah. So basically, we're discovering quite a lot right now.
We would have played football together. He was this he was so tall. I mean, he probably wasn't that tall. It's just I was 4, and so I looked up to this guy who was enormous.
He was an adult, essentially.
He was an adult. And he had Arsenal tracksuit bottoms on all the time. So I thought, this guy is, and he would just beat us. He would run past us, and I remember thinking, this guy is amazing at football. It's just the fact that we were 5 years old that he was able to do so. But yeah, Emmanuel, shout out to Emmanuel, whatever he's doing in the world.
Yeah, shout to Emmanuel. Sounds like we might have more to catch up off camera when this is over than we even knew.
Yeah. Were you, with your YouTube content, were you ever tempted to go down more of the football route? I know you've done some videos outside White Hart Lane, which are very funny. Like, I love it. Just winding up Spurs fans, kind of. But were you ever tempted, obviously, to not go down the Arsenal fan TV kind of route? But was that did you have any intention to do more of a football angle?
No, and the reason why is because I really dislike the tribal element of football. It's not just around the UK, but in the world. And there is this sense that if you are a Chelsea fan or if you're an Arsenal fan, you're not allowed to speak to a Spurs fan. And there are some people who take this kind of very jokingly, but in other instances, the diehards, that's a real thing. And so I find that a very bizarre concept, that because somebody supports a football team, you're not allowed to talk to anybody else. So I don't think I love it that much. I think I've got into, I play for FPL every now and then, but I was much too egotistical. I wanted to make people laugh rather than talk about footy. But now that I've got a channel, I have, as you say, have been able to do a little bit of football content, and it's a completely different audience. It's a whole new world. Football Twitter, for example, is just something that you need to be very careful before dipping your toe into. So it was never an idea to kind of go into full time, but I do like to dabble every now and then.
Maybe I would have, because I'm a Spurs fan. I wonder if I was there that day. Next time you're outside White Hart Lane, Max, I'll be there. I'll be there talking to you.
Please be there. I need someone to talk to.
But yeah, obviously, just earlier, Kai was asking you kind of about your start in football, and you spoke about Primrose Hill football and all of that. But obviously, back in the day, when we were at school together, I think we played in the same school team. You were obviously a year younger, but you were always like the star kid in your team. And I know there was even a video you did where you kind of got the band back together for a running race. I know, but what are your memories of playing football back in those days?
Actually, my memories of them was that I was really good. And the reason why that is, you touched upon it there, Joe. The reason why I thought I was really good is that there were 20 boys in my year. So I was so up myself because I was in the A team at football all the time. I thought, yeah, don't worry, guys. I know what I'm doing. And then I went to secondary school where suddenly there were 180 boys in the year, and I was put in the 6th 11. So it was a bit of a kind of a crash back down to earth. But no, I remember playing a lot of football. It was just the thing to do. And Joe, when we were in a team together, we were in the school first team when we were 13, and we got these kits that was really shiny shirts. They looked like an outfit from Stars in Their Eyes. Honestly, they were so sparkly, and we wore them with such pride. And Joe kind of led the line up front with the striking position. I was more left wing, who definitely didn't track back. So yeah, I just remember having just such fond memories, and even after school, going home and playing football with people who lived around me. Playing football, I'm sure it was the same with all of you guys, was such a pivotal part of my childhood, definitely.
God, yeah, and it's funny you mentioned those shiny kits. We were just like the campus team going.
That was a weird moment. That was a weird bit of pride. Remember when you'd have to leave a lesson early? It'd be like, "Oh, sorry, miss. I'm representing the school away at UCS." Okay. Just email. Tell me about the homework later.
And actually, when I went to secondary school, I played cricket. Cricket was my sport, and if anything, like John, that experience was times 10 because you got to miss the whole of Saturday school. Like you would leave the first lesson halfway through, like, sorry miss, I've got cricket to play. It was just such a kind of a drop the mic kind of moment, walking out and just going to play sport all day. So yeah, it was that was a great side effect.
Well, you know, I'm happy the memories are positive ones, and yeah, great for bringing up the kit. But obviously now, Max, you are a YouTuber, and you've been doing a lot of cool stuff over the last couple of years. But what I'm interested in is if we could go back in time and go back to young Max Fosh back when we were at school. Do you think young Max would sort of be surprised what you're up to now? Or actually was this obviously sort of YouTubers maybe wasn't a thing back then, but did you from a young age always have ambitions of sort of doing something in the media or of that ilk?
Yeah, I think I've definitely always been a show off. I mean, that's definitely safe to say. So I was always in the school plays at school, and when the part of Angel Gabriel was up for the school nativity, I was the first one who stuck my hand up in the air. No one else did it. No one else wanted to dress up in a sheet and be the Angel Gabriel, but I bloody did. So I don't think, obviously, as you say, like YouTube definitely wasn't a thing. It just didn't cross my mind that could be an option. I think the closest thing that could be an option equivalent to is like acting. And so I think when I was younger, I was like, yeah, I want to be an actor, not really knowing what that meant. And actually, I'm very glad that I didn't go down that path, because I've got friends of mine who have, and it is such a cutthroat world and is so dependent on other people to help things happen for you. But for a long, long time, I think in my secondary school, I didn't even think about it, because there was such a traditional route that would happen for people who went to the secondary school that I went to. I went to Harrow School, which is a very kind of it's a bit stuffy. It's a bit kind of old school in its traditions. And so you kind of expected to go in the city or be a doctor or be a lawyer. And so I didn't really think about doing that at all. And that only really kind of reignited in me when I went to university. So, but I bet like little 12-year-old Max would have loved the idea that I'm doing what I'm doing now, but probably didn't understand how it was going to happen or how that route was going to get to where it is.
It's a lot of fun what you're doing, so I'm sure 12-year-old Max would have been buzzing at the thought, in his shiny kit, of course.
In campus Christmas.
Yeah. Well, we've asked a few questions, Max, but now it's time for our first game of the
Yes.
podcast. Yeah, I know. It's a very exciting one today.
Do I need a pen and paper, or is it just my knowledge that I need?
It's just your knowledge. And Max, you've over the last couple of years, actually, you've made a lot of headlines through your alter ego, Maximus Bucharest.
Correct. Yes.
So we obviously know that Maximus can take a catwalk in his stride, but what we want to know today is how much does Maximus actually know about Romanian football? Oh. So what I'm going to do, Max, is
okay.
I'm going to, or Maximus, I should even say,
yeah.
I'm going to pose a few questions to yourself and to Keitel and John as well. And essentially, you'll all get a chance to say whether you think the statement is true or false. So let's start with the first question now, and let's see if Kai and John can beat the man from Bucharest himself. So the first question, true or false? Steaua Bucharest were the champions of Liga 1 in the 2019-20 season. I'll start with Maximus. Do you think that's true or false?
I know that they're definitely a team. So I've when you were doing the intro, I thought I don't even know any Romanian teams, but I've heard of Steaua Bucharest, and I think they often pop up in the Europa League at least, if not the Champions League. So I'm going to say yes. I haven't heard of any of them. I'm going to say that's true. I think they did win the league.
Okay, you think it's true. John, how about you? Did Steaua Bucharest win the league last season?
Let's just go yes. I mean, if someone said that to me in the pub, I'd totally believe them. Like, yeah, why not?
Okay, and Keitel, what do you reckon? True or false?
Someone told that to me in the pub, I would be very confused as to why they told me that in the first place. But I'm just going to be contrary and say it's false. There's another team, I think, Dinamo Bucharest, so I'm just going to assume that they won.
Well, I can reveal that it was false. So Kai gets a point there. And actually, I can also reveal it was CFR Cluj that won the Liga 1.
Okay.
Question number 2. Dan Petrescu played for 4 separate teams in the Premier League. True or false? Let's start with Kai this time.
I mean, I don't want to give anyone else clues, but honestly, I can only think of one of them. So I'm going to say false.
Okay, false from Keitel. John?
I'm going to say true. I think he played for a few teams.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, what about you, Maximus? What do you
Yeah,
think?
I think he did play for quite a few teams. Yeah, I'm going to say true as well. I'm going to stick with John on this.
Okay, well, John and Max are right. It's true. He played actually for Sheffield Wednesday, Chelsea, Bradford, and even Southampton. Who'd have known that Dan would get around so much? So we've all got 1 point apiece. Third question. In the first game of Euro 2016, France beat Romania 2-1. But this was a game in which 2 of Romania's starting 11 had previously played in the Premier League. True or false? Let's start with John.
Oh man, I'm trying to think. True.
Okay, John's going true. Keitel, what do you reckon?
I mean, I'm sure there was at least one. Whether or not there was a second, I'm going to say true.
True. Okay. What about you?
I'm gonna say false because I think at some point in their career there would have been at least 2. I was watching the Fulham game the other day and they were saying that someone from like the Seychelles plays for Fulham or something, like a really obscure country. So I'm sure that 2 players at least wormed their way into the Premier League. So I'm gonna say false. I think it's more.
Okay. Well, I can reveal it was true, actually. There was 2. So Kai and John get a point. And the 2 players were Vlad Chiriches, who played for Spurs for a bit, pretty badly, unfortunately. And then one of my favourite Football Manager players, Razvan Rat. He only had a short spell at West Ham, but he did play in the Premier League. Okay.
What a name.
I know.
Never forget the Rat.
Absolutely love the Rat. The question 4. Now, we've spoken about Steaua Bucharest. It's the turn of Dynamo Bucharest now. Dynamo Bucharest haven't won Liga 1 since 2006. True or false? Max, what do you reckon?
That's false. They've definitely won it in the kind of the teens, 10 to 20. They've bagged it at least once. I believe in them. So that's false.
Okay, false. Keitel, what do you think?
Yeah, if you're living in Bucharest, I mean, there's got to be a divide, I guess, between Steaua and Dinamo. So hopefully there's been some good times for those Dinamo guys in the past couple of decades. I'm going to say it's false.
Okay, John, what do you say?
Yeah, false as well.
Okay, and you are all correct, but actually, I think not for the right reasons because they haven't actually won it since 2005. Who'd have thought?
God, there's some heartache on one side of Bucharest. That's for sure.
I know, yeah, you don't want to be a fan of Dinamo. But yeah, we've got a few questions left at the moment. Kai's on 3 points, Maximus is on 2, and John's on 3. Can Maximus get back into it? Let's see.
Hope so.
Question 5. Yanis Hadji, son of Georgie, was the first ever Romanian player to sign for the club Rangers. True or false? Max, let's start with you.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Okay. John?
It rings a bell. Of course, his son would play for someone like Rangers, you know what I mean? So I'm going to have to say, yeah. True.
Okay. Kai, true or false that he was the first Romanian to sign for Rangers?
I don't think so. There's got to have been, back in the day, one Romanian before Hadji, who's been there for only a couple of years. So I'm going to say false.
Keitel is correct. It is false. It is false. There was one other Romanian that signed for Rangers, who weirdly never played a game for them and also very sadly died quite young. Daniel Prodan, rest in peace to him. But what that does mean is Keitel's on 4 points, and we've got a couple of questions left. Let's see.
Keitel storming out into the lead.
Yeah.
It's, my
Yeah,
Romanian
how do you know so
football
much?
knowledge,
Question 6. Adrian Mutu. I had to include him because, Max is a Chelsea fan and John absolutely loves this man. But Adrian Mutu scored 25 goals for the Romanian national side. True or false? John, let's start with you.
I think he scored a lot more than that.
So you're
okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. What about you, Keitel?
I'm going to say false. Probably, maybe more.
I think true because I think he is in his career got cut short because of all sorts of scandals. He loved the little snow dust. So I'm sure that the Romanian national team didn't act too kindly. So I reckon he would have maybe got 25 in about 40 games, which makes sense. So I'm going to say that's true.
You're going to say that's true. Oh dear, Max. It's false. Maximus, you've been doing too much modelling. You need to get to football ground. Yeah, you two actually scored 35 goals as opposed to 25.
Oh, God, we really were banging them in for Romania.
Yeah.
Good
It
lad.
really was.
So we've got one more question. Kai's in the lead with 1 point. So basically, can John tie this game up, and can Maximus get a little consolation prize here? So here's the final question. At Euro 2000, Romania were defeated by Italy in the quarterfinals. True or false? Let's start with Max.
I've got 50-50, haven't got a Scooby. That's a weird thing to make up, so that's true.
Okay, true. John, what are you saying?
Yeah, I'm going to go with true.
Okay, John's going with true. Keitel, it's down to you. Do you reckon it's true or do you reckon it's false?
I remember Buffon making that save this is many World Cups later, against Romania, I think, that saved Italy's prospects to get out of the group one time. And for some reason, I want to say that the commentators might have referenced back to like an older game between Italy and Romania. So I'll go ahead and say, sure, it's true that Italy beat them.
You're all correct. Italy did beat Romania in the quarterfinals of Euro 2000. So, Kai, congratulations. You are the winner of this Romanian game. And John, you've beaten Maximus. So, yeah, I think, as I said earlier, Maximus, a great model, but he's clearly not a football fan.
I'm struggling. Adrian Mutu, though, will forever remain in my heart for both Chelsea reasons and also just off the pitch reasons. He sounds like a great laugh on a night out.
Oh, you've got to get Maximus and Adrian on a night out the next session week. That would
be fantastic, wouldn't it?
I think Mutu is even a coach, possibly within the Romania setup. So hopefully he's setting a better example these days than he was during his time at Chelsea. Speaking of Chelsea, we mentioned it earlier. That's the team that Max supports. So let's talk a little bit more about them. With Frank Lampard gone, I would say that possibly at this point Roman Abramovich is maybe the closest remaining link between the Chelsea of today and the Chelsea of all of our childhoods. Seeing as the Russian billionaire's arrival at Stamford Bridge brought about massive changes at Chelsea, Max, I wanted to know, how recognizable is the club that you currently support compared to the one that you began following when you were a kid?
What a great question. I think one thing that has happened under Roman is that in 2004, when they brought in Mourinho and they had all this money to spend, that was so new in English football. And I remember it being like Chelsea are buying their way to the title, but it kind of set a precedent to what happens now. And that I think Chelsea, even though they spent a lot in the summer, they're kind of almost minnows in terms of the amount of money they're putting behind transfers. So I guess they're very different in that sense, in that they're no longer seen as the plastic glory club, which they did for about 10 years. And that title has now been taken by City. And kind of United in some way, but they just don't have any of the trophies to back it up. So I think in that sense, it's very different. And I guess I definitely also wasn't as involved in the club and how it performed when I was younger. I think that we still don't have, we've got a few players that are stalwarts of the club, but they're with this new increase in spending, that's being changed over. So when I was growing up, we had the Terrys, we had the Petr Cechs, the Ashley Coles, the Lampards, who was the first name on the team sheet. But now that isn't really the case anymore. I mean, Azpilicueta's just got back in the team under Tuchel, which is nice to see, but I think that's quite kind. I don't think he's definitely not our best right back. And so I think it's definitely a period of change, and Abramovich is showing that, and he's not giving people that much time to enact that change. So I think it definitely has changed a lot from the Chelsea that I once knew. But if anything, it's a Chelsea that I'm now more invested in than I was as a kid.
Well, that's interesting to know that you're kind of, gotten closer to the club as time has moved on. Sticking with Tuchel, however you say it, and Abramovich, I guess. Obviously, Mourinho did come back for a second spell, and he won the Premier League title for you guys a few years ago. But I would say that since his first spell that you were referencing, back in around 2004, I'd say no manager at the club has had a particularly steady platform to stand on since then, and that rather they've all seemingly been on Roman's chopping block from kind of the minute they walked in the door. So do you think there's anything that might make Tuchel different? Or given the long-standing issue of kind of notorious player power at Chelsea, is Tuchel just the next fall guy?
I would love to say that he isn't, but I'm sure he is. I'm sure that in 2 years, if that, he'll be out of there. I mean, if you look at the people that Abramovich has got rid of, even when they got results, like Di Matteo won the Champions League and he left the next season. Like Avram Grant did brilliant. Gus Hiddink did quite well, and they all just kind of left very quickly. I don't see how. And we're kind of seeing this in football just in general across the league. I don't think there's any manager at the moment at any club that's been there for a long period of time, other than maybe Sean Dyche at Burnley. So I don't think he's going to last long. I think he'll do what he needs to do. He might win an FA Cup. He might win a Europa League. I don't see him at the moment winning a Premier League. He might be able to if he gets the players firing, because although we've seen Werner not playing particularly well this season, the firepower that Chelsea have is incredible. And like we're now seeing Hudson-Odoi and Reece James and a lot of the more defensive players. Billy Gilmore, I'm a big fan of, and I think that he could be one of the next big talents, the next Phil Fodens of the Premier League. So I don't think that Tuchel is going to stay around for long, but I'm sure he might win the odd thing.
Do you think this constant kind of transition of managers hurts some of your youth players in like the long term? So a long-term career at Chelsea, and you could see another, I know they're not English or anything, but like Kevin De Bruyne, moving from, obviously that's the obvious one, Mo Salah, all these young players coming to Chelsea and they just flounder almost, and then they go somewhere else and they're just amazing. Is that kind of a product of constant change?
Yeah, I'm not sure what that is a product of, but Chelsea are very, very good at letting incredible players go. I mean, Lukaku is another one of them that we just, but also then playing players who are really not very good. Like Steve Sidwell was given the number 10 shirt for a long period of time. Like that's bonkers. The guy did nothing. And I think we have seen that under Frank, and maybe a little bit just before Frank, there have been an emergence of maybe 5 players that I can think of that are now looking to be the real deal as Premier League players. Like you've got Reece James, Mason Mount, Hudson-Odoi, Billy Gilmore, maybe those 4.
Actually, not Tammy Abraham.
Yeah, Tammy Abraham up front as well. Yeah, you're right. Like they are now turning into, they're becoming good Premier League players. They're not yet going to be a Mo Salah or Kevin De Bruyne. But hopefully we have got enough of them that 1 or 2 will turn into those players. And I'm not sure why it's Chelsea that is making them leave so quickly, and what particularly at Chelsea is that there's not letting them flourish. But we can't make that mistake much longer, just purely from the football side of things, but also from a financial point of view. Like if you're letting £100 million player go for 15 million just because you're not being patient enough is a really stupid financial decision.
I mean, there's so many young, talented players at Chelsea. It'll be interesting to see what Tuchel does with them. I mean, the early signs are pretty promising, but I mean, as a Spurs fan, I'm not hoping for good things for them, I'm afraid. And speaking of my team Spurs, as we're recording this episode, it's only 2 days away from Chelsea playing Spurs, albeit a bit of a poor Tottenham team in terms of results recently. But also, when you're listening to this, it will be a day after Chelsea played Sheffield United too. So, Max, out of these 2 upcoming games for Chelsea, Chelsea Spurs and Chelsea Sheffield United, how confident are you that Tuchel's going to get you 2 wins out of 2?
Not particularly confident, and that's no slander on Tuchel's name. That's a product of the Premier League at the moment. I don't think as a manager, it's been so close this season, and there are no guaranteed wins. Like even Sheffield United turned up, even though everyone thought, right, they're up for Derby's record of the lowest points in the Premier League. They turn up and get a win at Old Trafford. So I'm sure that he'll do well. He's got a good pedigree. He's played with some great players. But I still do believe this like phrase of timing to bed in. And I bet you Spurs going on the decline, Chelsea having a couple of good results, I bet you're going to beat us 3-1, but that's just the way it happens. So I hope that he does get 2 wins out of 2, but I'm not kind of counting my chickens before they hatch. It's the Premier League and literally anything that can happen.
Yeah, as you said, anything can happen. I have literally no idea what's going on in the Arsenal game as we speak.
Shall I tell you, Kai? Shall I tell you?
Honestly, from the sound in your voice, I would say don't, because I'm probably not.
Just for Max's reaction, I'm just like, it's a Burn Leno red card.
Oh, so we're down to 9 men and we're going to lose.
9 men, yeah.
All right, well, there you go. It's not like...
I'm glad I don't have him in my fantasy team.
Yeah, it's not like we might need Leno later or anything, because our other are rubbish. Well, anyway, like I said, John, anyway.
Sorry, guys.
It's all right. But essentially, as we approach the end of the episode, the time has come for the pun ulti shootout. We've done this a few times before. The rules are simple. I've got either direct questions or sentences with blanks in them for you guys to fill in. The answers are all players' names, typically last names. There might be some full names in there. And ultimately, the answers are also puns. So play along if you're listening. We'll see how it goes. If we get stuck, you guys can ask me questions and I'll also try to throw some clues your way. So there's 10 of these. And here is the first one. If you think you know the answer, just call it out. So number 1. Megan Thee Stallion wrote a song about him, and Rihanna has a lingerie line named after this ex-player turned pundit.
Robbie Savage?
Yeah, Joe's got it. Savage is the answer.
Oh, what?
Very good.
I'm a savage.
Thank you, John.
Yeah.
This number 2 one, this high-profile January transfer would also be a fitting name for a deodorant. Might be relevant to at least one of us on the call in terms of teams that we support.
Just thinking whether there's a player called David Lynx or not.
Lynx, yeah.
There is.
Or just a player called Lynx Africa.
Yeah.
So.
It's not something to do with Fernando Torres.
No. This is kind of, I've tried to do a few of these relative to the January transfer window that's just passed. So he's flavor of the month in some regard, or flavor of last month. He's a loan signing.
Minamino?
Minamino, no?
No.
Famous deodorant, Takumi.
That sounds kind of deodorant. No?
He's one of 2 brilliant players from this nation at the minute. They have 2 young players that are some of the best players in the world, and he's one of them. He's European.
God, why is this so... I don't understand. There hasn't even been that many signings. I don't know why this is...
Arsenal. Think about Arsenal.
Oh, Odegaard.
Yeah, that counts. Odegaard.
Oh, good. Yeah, very good.
Yeah. No.
Okay. So that's one apiece for Joe and Max. Moving on to the third one. This player shares his name with both a Scottish term of endearment and also one half of a famous American criminal couple.
Laddie Clyde?
I mean, the Clyde part is the opposite of, but you're onto something.
Bonnie
Lass.
Yeah,
Wilfred Bonnie.
Yeah, go on, Joe. Wilfred Bonnie.
Oh, man.
Right.
I was about to say Nathaniel Klein.
Klein. Yeah, Klein. Is that a thing that people in Scotland say? Number 4. A common Joe. Oh, sorry. I just called my dog Joe. Excuse me.
Is that what you think of me?
No. Anyway, that was a bit of a Freudian slip, which might become a clue later if you can't get it. But anyway, I won't go too far down that route. A common mispronunciation of this disgraced ex-pro's surname is the name of the penultimate Pokemon from the original 151.
Adrian Mewtwo.
Yeah, well in. That's why I think that was the Freudian slip. Joe was talking about Mewtwo earlier, and then I called my dog Joe. But anyway, yeah, I guess technically his name's pronounced Mewtwo, but people call him Mewtwo, and that would be Mewtwo, the Pokemon. So number 5, I believe that's 2 apiece, Joe and Max. This Premier League fullback is good at tracking wingers, but the IRS might have a difficult time tracking him. He plays for a Midlands club.
Traore.
I think Joe might have got it.
Yeah, Matty Cash.
Cash.
Ah.
So Matt.
Why would the IRS be tracking Armand Traore?
Well, you never know. He's got some dodgy accounts.
Oh, maybe.
Yeah, you might
Yeah,
have
to be fair.
You might have dropped Armand Traore in hot water without anybody knowing about it beforehand.
Funny enough, Armand Traore was David Wheeler's most impressive player he played against, an ex-guest of the show. He's
really
way back, Armand Traore. We love it.
Funnily, I was actually reading an old Arsenal program from a game that I had, and it must have been when we just signed Theo Walcott, and I think at the time he hadn't made a first team appearance yet. And the question for him was, who's the best player you've played against? And he must have played at the time against either West Ham or Birmingham reserves, and featuring John Spector. And so he named John Spector as the best player he's ever played against at one point in his career, Theo Walcott. So that's quite a nice one for John. Number 6, fill in the blank with the name of this baller that the streets won't forget from the 2012-13 Premier League season. If you were introducing yourself to a stranger, you might say, nice to blank.
Yeah, he's got it, but he's not saying.
Meet you.
Yeah, that's it.
I held off and I was like, oh, I'm just going to
Meet you.
I love that guy. He was so good.
There we go. I think is Joe pulling ahead?
Did
Yeah,
Michu do
that
that?
Michu. Exactly. What is it, Joe? Is it 4-2, I think?
4-2, I think, for Joe, yeah.
Okay,
God.
moving on to number 7. This forgotten Premier League flop shares his name with a popular Japanese noodle dish. And he may or may...
Baba ramen.
Yeah, was that John? Well in. I was going to say he may or may not play for Chelsea, but it is Ramen, Baba Ramen, who's been loaned out a bunch of times. He's kind of turning into the next Lucas Piazon. We'll see how that goes. Number 8. I've replaced the first 3 words of this popular nursery rhyme with the full name of one of this Premier League season's recent stars. So it's blank, 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 your boat gently down the stream.
Fabio Rockenbach.
What?
That relates to no part of the question that I just had. Like I said, a spray.
Oh, Emil Smith Rowe.
Max is on back. Emil Smith, row your boat gently down the stream. So what's that? I think 4 for Joe, 3 for Max, and 1 for John. So it's close. All right, number 9. If couscous is the rice so nice they named it twice, this guy is the footballer who just... I think my dog Zeus might know the answer.
He's got 1 point now, Zeus.
Yeah, if couscous is the rice so nice they named it twice, this guy is the footballer who just didn't quite live up to couscous. Think deadline day transfers from yesterday.
I was going to say Thomas Kuzak, but I don't think that's it.
It does sound like couscous. He has had a mention on the pod as he was the wrong answer to one of these questions earlier, I think. Yeah.
Minamino.
Minamino.
Oh,
Almost Minamino. Anyway.
come on.
That's just where my brain's at. Meanwhile, my dog just ruining everything in the background, but that's all right. Give me actually just 1 second to genuinely make him stop doing that.
Oh, let's have a look. Are we going to see?
Yeah. Oh,
there we go.
There we go. He's a funny little fella.
Zeus, what a legend. He's got a star on his front.
Okay, Minamino was the answer. So I think technically Joe is uncatchable, perhaps, but we're going to do this last one because it might be the favorite one that I prepared. So at the time of recording, Burnley are going to be facing Man City tomorrow. And there's a very high likelihood that we may well see these 2 legends of Christianity come up against each other on the pitch.
Jesus is one of them. And God,
Gabriel
does he play for Burnley?
Yeah.
Front.
Dwight McNeil plays for Burnley, so yeah, God does play.
Someone who God might trust a lot to handle things on earth for him.
Gabriel and Jesus.
Peter, John, Matthew.
That was a good one for Gabriel, but no, Burnley.
Luke.
So we've got one. They're going to come up against each other.
Oh, it's none other than Nick Pope.
It is.
Oh.
Maybe that's a half a point each for Max and for Joe. So yeah, of course, Jesus versus the Pope tomorrow. We'll see how that one goes. But as it does happen, I think Joe kind of ran away slowly with that one. So he is the winner of today's penalty shootout. And as I was kind of alluding to earlier, that does just about bring us to the end of this episode. So I want to say a thank you to my co-host, Joe. I also want to thank our good friend, John. And then I want to say a special thanks to Max Fosh. Max, thanks for joining us. We hope you enjoyed.
Thanks for having me, guys. Thank you.
Seriously, our pleasure. Really has been an absolute, I can't even say it. That's how much of a pleasure it was. How can our listeners follow you? Everything that you're doing as well. And do you have any content in 2021 that you're particularly looking forward to creating?
I have a lot of content that I'm looking forward to creating in 2021. I've had so many ideas for pieces of video, for videos that can be done in normal times. So I'm very, very excited to do some of them. One of them includes visiting a nudist colony. I've always wanted to get stuck in and potentially take my kit off and do a video with that. I will be the one who's editing that particular video. And yeah, you find all my stuff just on the normal YouTube. You type in Max Fosh, and unfortunately some of my videos will pop up. So please go take a look.
Lovely. Interesting choice of words with stuck in. Be careful what you get stuck into at that nudist. But on our end of things, if you enjoyed listening to this episode, please do follow us on our social media platforms, where we're constantly posting new episodes, interviews, match recaps, articles, and more. We're at United Mates FP on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. And then if you feel like putting some faces to these voices, check us out on YouTube. Search for United Mates Football Podcast and click that subscription button. Now, to play us out is today's featured artist.
Hi, this is Sandy Nunn, and you're listening to the United Mates Football Podcast. This is my new single, Tearjerker.